laughter is something that allows us to embrace paradox. In an ancient book of Kabbalah, the first book we have from, it's about 300 words, the whole book. It's called the Book of Creation, Sefer Yetzirah. It argues that there are not 5 senses, there are 12 senses. And each sense is a faculty of perception, right? Kind of predating kind of Howard Gardner's work in a very beautiful way, who talks about 12 intelligences. And the 12th faculty of perception is actually laughter. And what a faculty of perception is it's something that allows me to see something in reality that I couldn't see with another faculty, right? So smell gives me something that touch doesn't, and touch gives me something that sight doesn't, and sight gives me something that hearing doesn't. And laughter allows me to hold something, right, that nothing else allows me to hold. So laughter is a faculty of perception that allows me to hold paradox, and that's really the Buddha's smile, right? I found a text. This is completely uninteresting to you, but it's coming to my mind, so I'm going to share it with you anyways for 1 second. I found this unbelievable text, and a 19th century master kind of alluded to it. He hit it. He says what the high priest does on the Holy of Holies, on Yom Kippur, when he enters the Sanctum Sanctorum, which is the ultimate mystical ritual, when he calls out, he evokes the divine name, right? What he does as he does it is he laughs. The high priest laughs. It's a ritual of laughter. So laughter embraces paradox. I want to just throw a paradox at you. That is to say, everything that we dismissed and rejected is still true. That is to say, our actions are powerful. Right? They're not powerful in a dogmatic way, where action A will necessarily lead to action B, and certainly no one can tell you which action led to another action. That is to say, when a teacher tells you the reason this happened is because you did this, he or she is usually lying because they don't know. But actually, our own primal intuition that we're powerful, we're not dismissing that. We're holding it paradoxically. Okay? We're not saying, the world's a tale told by an idiot, full of sounds and furies signifying nothing, last act Macbeth. That's not what we're saying. Right? We're saying the world actually is a deeply karmic cause and effect place. That's actually true. And there is a relationship between the way I am in the world and what arises in the world, and there's radical uncertainty, and we don't really know how it works, and we have to protest and yell, and the only thing that's powerful is love, right? And, right, God cries. Right? A deep spiritual position would be not to hold one or the other, but to hold both together and to hold the paradox. And to hold that paradox in laughter. That's, of course, why the high priest in Yom Kippur laughs, because it's the day of sin, and it's the day of absolute divine love and embrace. What does that mean? So let's just laugh. But let's just laugh, not a light laughter. It's pre-trans. It's not pre-laughter, it's trans laughter. It's this laughter that kind of holds and embraces. So that's just one kind of caveat. So I want to hold that because I don't want people to leave to say, okay, therefore, there's no relationship between how I live in the world and what arises in the world. That's not true. There's a deep and profound relationship, right? But we just don't fully understand it, right? And we need to understand kind of that deep idea, kind of one. And 2 is 2 short caveats, and just we open up, which I think are just both important. One is, and Ken, you talked about this in Boomeritis in a couple of different places, and Sykes in this great book that I bought a couple of weeks ago, right? I call The Nation of Victims. It's just this fabulous, fabulous book, right? Which I got on Ken's recommendation. Just this unbelievable book. There's another book by Alan Dershowitz, who's this lovely Boston man, right? Also Jewish, right? Called what's called The Abuse Excuse. Right? And basically, in order to honor suffering, we actually have to get out of victimization. That is to say, right? Everybody today seems to be a victim. There's this enormous culture of victimization. And the culture of victimization comes from an inability to hold the kind of energy that we were kind of with in the room. It comes from an inability to be in my soul print, if you will. It comes from an inability to be in the infinite depth of my story. It comes from an inability to hold my story and non-story as one. So kind of when I'm empty, because no one can hold emptiness, and I'm not talking about shunyata, I'm talking about just straight emptiness. Kind of straight neurotic emptiness, right? Straight kind of crazy emptiness. But you can't hold that, so you got to fill it up with something. So I fill it up with a false identity. And the best, easiest false identity is to be a victim. Okay? So that actually dishonors suffering in the world. I just want to kind of say that when we talk about evil and suffering. It's actually there are real people who suffer. It's actually real suffering. There's real abuse, and there's real rape, and there's real crime, right, which is brutal, and there's real loneliness, and there's real starvation. But to honor that and to heal that, we can only do it if we kind of move out of kind of our own places, right, of kind of holding victim identity. Right? Victim identity is not, that's not what we're talking about in suffering. That's false suffering. And I want to kind of distinguish between also tears and manipulative tears, tears and inauthentic tears. Not all tears are the same, right? Not all claims to suffering are the same. We need to make that distinction, and the failure to make that distinction actually dishonors, right, suffering. Right? It kind of emasculates our ability to heal suffering. That's kind of caveat 2, and here's the last caveat 3. And that's it. And then I want to kind of open up and we'll all kind of hear and kind of move around. And caveat 3 is also, I think, important just because we're having this discussion, we can't not say it.